Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have 5 top tips for you on how you can plan your school year to be the most organised person you have been so far. First of all, apologies if I sound a bit weird. I've had a cold for the past couple of days, which is brilliant. That's how I want to start my first week of school. So I might sound a bit funny, but we'll roll with it. I think definitely I started planning before year 11, but the beginning of year 11 I took it a lot more seriously. I was going to plan every single day up until my GCSEs, and hopefully it will help me get somewhere. At the beginning of year 11 I was falling behind in a few subjects, not massively. I was one grade below what I wanted to get in my mocks, and I just felt like I had a really cluttered mind. Do you know when you get back at the end of the day of school and you're just I have so much to do, but I can't think of one single thing that I will need to get done first. So I just started blurting out whatever I could think of on a piece of paper and then making that into some sort of organisable to-do list. I developed how I was going to plan for the year and found out that I was taking too much time planning one thing, not enough doing another thing. I perfected my planning skills, should we say, over year 11. And I feel like now is a good time for me to share what I've learned from a year of properly planning. So first of all, why should you plan? So for me, it was definitely to reduce stress, because if you've got a set list of what you need to do for that day, you're less likely to have that cluttered mindset. So the second reason why I started planning is because I felt like I was more confident. You were more confident in your brain because you knew that if you stuck to this plan that you'd given yourself, you would get to where you want to be. So for me, especially with my art coursework, and anyone who does art or a creative subject, photography, DT, there are a lot of deadlines, and the only way I could stick to them was if I planned every single time I was going to do some art, and it worked. I may have fallen behind a little bit, but that was some of the mistakes that I'll get into later. But it helped me get an amazing grade that I'm so happy with. So yeah, more confidence. And lastly, just before I get into the tips, this planning, just like I did in year 11, you can see what works and what doesn't, because you can look back at, say you've got a notepad, you can look back at the first time you started planning right the way to wherever you are now and see what you have done to get to where you are. So say you've just done your mocks and you've just come out with really good grades in some and not so good grades in another. You can look at the subjects that you've done really well in and look at what you did to plan for those, because you'll have written it down on a sheet of paper that you've kept and not just thrown away a post-it note, and you can carry on doing that so that you know that you should get the same grades at GCSE, fingers crossed. On the other hand, if you've not done too well in a subject, maybe you can look back and reevaluate what you've been doing. Say maybe you've spent too much time reading over a textbook and never actually got any information. Switch up your revision techniques a little bit. So, you can see what works for you and what doesn't. Number 1, start your planner now. When it's the beginning of the year, start it now. You'll thank yourself later, because not only do you get that habit formed right from the start, but as I've said, when it comes to mocks and when you've big tests, maybe you can see right from the beginning of the year what you have been doing to revise for that subject, and that goes back to the point I've just made. You can see what works and what doesn't. And also the planner, it doesn't have to be some fancy notebook that costs £50 off some random website online. It can literally be a £1 notepad from Wilkinson's. It does the same thing. As long as you can write in it, it will work. The one thing I tried to stick by in year 11, and I found myself, slipping back, because you're like, oh, it needs to look nice. No. Progress, not perfection. That is what I lived by for year 11, and it got me far. When you think about, all this aesthetically pleasing stuff, and yeah, okay, I've got my notepad here. I've got my little bullet journal, which I used to plan. It doesn't have to be this. Number 2, use the first few pages of your notebook for general stuff that you're going to use throughout the year. So I used it as a preview of the school year, a timetable, general stuff like that I'm going to use through the whole year, and it will help me keep organised. So say if I lose my timetable, which I undoubtedly will within the first week, you have it there and not just on a photo on your phone, which could easily be lost with many other photos that you'll take. It was in your notepad, always at the front of the book. It's there, it's staying there. It's not going anywhere else unless you rip the page out, which I don't advise you do. So the preview of the school year. So I set mine out. So you get the little like the little monthly calendar things. I have like them. I draw them out, and I just leave space either side of it to say annotate important dates. So I've got, say, a prize giving coming up, so I'll annotate that on, or the holidays, or important exams, aka mocks, proper GCSEs, those kind of things, to have them at the front of your planner. So you, whenever you're feeling slightly more like, I don't know what I'm doing, look there, it's all there. And if there's anything new, put it there straight away so you don't forget about it, and then it's done. Number 3, and this is optional, but I've started doing it and it's really helped me, do a monthly study log. So I'm just going to use my notepad for reference. So the reason why I started doing this is because I wanted to see whether I was spending too much time on one subject, not enough time on another subject, seeing if it's going to affect my grades. So the first thing is draw out a little table. It doesn't need to be, fancy. Again, progress, not perfection, with your subjects, the days of the week. So I've done this for 4 weeks, so because I've got 4 weeks left of this term. And each little block, on each day, write down how much time you're spending on each subject. So it literally could be 20 minutes reading over a chapter in biology. I don't know. So obviously for GCSE you're going to have a lot more subjects, but it works the same thing. You just do more columns. So this also goes back to when you get your grades and you want to see what you've done to get there, or what you've done to not get where you want to be. You might realise once you're filling this out that you are spending too much time on a certain subject and neglecting another subject, and it may be affecting your grades. So for the next 4 weeks, I have given myself a goal of doing 5 to 6 hours on each subject per week. That might sound like a lot, but then you divide it between the days, it's less than an hour a day. And I have frees, so I'll do them in my free time and have spare time at home. Obviously at GCSE I do not recommend doing 5 to 6 hours per subject. That's a lot of hours a week. Don't do that. If you're starting the study log and you've never done one before, I would almost say don't set yourself a goal, because see for the first week what you're actually doing, and then see whether you need to do a little bit more. Say you're only doing half an hour of geography a week, maybe you want to set that to an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Maybe you're doing 5 hours of English and you're getting really good grades in it, but maybe you want to reduce it to 4, so you've got time for another subject, which I'd advise. Don't spend, so much time on one subject, especially for artists out there. And I've, already brought up art. I spent so much time on art that at some points I neglected other subjects. The study log can help you balance out your time between the subjects, and hopefully again make you feel less stressed out because you know that you've got your life sorted. Just quick disclaimer though, I know I'm talking about the amount of time that you're spending on a subject. Study smart, not more. So if you realise that you're spending 8 hours on a certain subject a week and you're still not getting the grades that that you want, take a look at what you're doing in those 8 hours. Is it in front of a movie? Is it copying out the textbook and not, flashcards where you're practicing your quick memory and, mind maps, or quick jotted notes that are summarising a whole chapter into one page? That kind of stuff is more beneficial instead of sitting in front of a movie reading a textbook. Okay, so number 4 is use weekly spreads. So again, I'm looking at my notepad for reference, but at the beginning of year 11 I was doing monthly spreads. So I set out the whole month on one page, have a line per day for stuff I needed to get done. Quickly realised that wasn't enough room. I then switched to daily. So I would use a page per day, and that was a mistake for me. Unless you've got a little A6 notepad, which you know, there's not much room on there, so you're fine. But I found that I'd given myself too much room, and I would then use up all of that room with a huge to-do list that was just so unrealistic. So I then went on to weekly spreads. So I would separate out the day, the week into 8 different blocks. So a page would be for a whole week, and in those 8 blocks I'd use one for each day, and then the last one would be, you know, deadlines, important dates, notes, just random, you know, like a little one just for, again, clearing the mind. If you find that you need more of that, then obviously I actually use a post-it note to start off with, write down everything I need to get done in the week, then transfer it onto the page so it looks a lot less cluttered. So the reason why I stopped doing daily, as I've said, is because I gave myself too much work, so you feel overwhelmed, because suddenly you're looking at this list and you're like, I've not got enough time to do all of that work. And you also, when you don't finish it all in one day, you feel really disheartened because you're like, well, I should be. Which you shouldn't, because having that much to do is just ridiculous. Don't do that to yourself. Give yourself a break. So spreading it out into a week is a lot more manageable. You feel like you're on top of your game. Yeah, it's just a lot easier to do it in a week. Also, in each block for the day, include something that's not school related. So I tend to, you'll see I've done a dog walk, so walk Archie, my dog, do a workout, watch Bake Off on Tuesday. That's definitely an important thing to do. So I've got every single day, I've got something not school related to take my mind away from it, because don't forget, your mental health is so important, and a whole day's worth of maths ain't good for anyone. Set some time apart from school, from homework, from studies, to do something that's just gonna help you chill out. Number 5, write weekly goals. So I don't actually have that on my page. What I do is I write that on a post-it note. So stuff I really need to get done that week. So say revise quickly for a test, do some homework, do some coursework, important stuff like that. Put that in your weekly planner first before anything else. So, well, after your not school related stuff. So mine goes, say on Monday I've got walk RG, and then I've got to read over my maths textbook because I've got a maths test on Tuesday. I've done revision for that before, but that's just, you know, a quick refresh. That way you feel like even if you've not got everything done in a day, you've got your absolute necessities done and out of the way with, and you feel a lot better for it. So they are my top 5 tips for planning your school year, whether you're going into year 11, which I kind of focused on here with the GCSEs, but obviously it'll work for any year. Obviously that works for me. It may be different for you. Maybe you find that you prefer monthly spreads or daily spreads, but yeah, I've given my reasons as why I prefer weekly. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's been a lot of help, and maybe, you know, giving you some advice on how you can structure your year to keep your brain decluttered, keep your stress levels low, and make sure you still take care of your mental health and your body. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, and let me know in the comments if this has worked for you. See you later. Bye.